McDonald's made Rio movie Happy Meal Toys presents Cali Critic Reviews with additional sponsorship by Sharpie Markers, Mike and Ike's, Everlast Boxing Gloves, the Apple iPad, and finally our last sponsor, Transformers Revenge of the Wait. How the hell did this get here? POM Wonderful presents the greatest movie ever sold as Morgan Spurlock's third documentary. This time, instead of it dealing with the adverse effects of fast food or the hunt for Osama bin Laden and the Middle Eastern relationships with the United States, this movie focuses on product placement and advertising in movies. Spurlock decides he wants to make a film about product placement and advertising, so he decides to go on a journey in order to get sponsorship from different product placement companies and also to get many corporates to help sponsor his film entirely and to fund it through when it hits theaters as well. He ends up realizing the challenges that await him in order to abide by the contracts of the certain sponsorships he gains, but he also takes the time in the film to examine the actual world of product placement. Now, going into this film, I was really excited for it because I've always been a Morgan Spurlock fan. I absolutely love Super Size Me. That's always going to be one of my favorite documentaries I've seen. I like the guy because he always has that much-needed tongue-in-cheek humor to certain documentaries. And even though Spurlock does documentaries with very familiar subjects, I think the main reason he strives to do that is so he can satirize the subject itself. And he does a good job with this film. Like, I really enjoyed this film, just nowhere as much as, say, Super Size Me, because that movie cannot be topped by Spurlock unless he goes out for something much further. Spurlock presents a very interesting view into the world of product placement in order to help get his film sponsored in order so he can secure the funds up for the release. The bulk of the movie deals with Spurlock trying to secure sponsorships from all these different companies, but I feel like the movie depends a little too much on that, and it gets just a little tedious after a while. That's not to say there are some very great bits of content in this film, especially when he interviews different filmmakers about the world of product placement in film especially, and I got to learn something about Quentin Tarantino, aka my favorite filmmaker, something about him that I thought I would have never known in my life from Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs. Spurlock also takes the time in the film to interview ordinary people in New York City and in other areas across the world about their views on product placement and how it's literally becoming part of our lives. That's of course a subject that we all know about already, but it's really cool to hear these different people's reactions, especially to what kind of brand they view themselves as. Like all his other films, Spurlock adds that much-needed zing of humor to his films. Like, this film is pretty funny in some parts, but the reason I'm not rating this film as high as most of his other work is because he just relies a little too much on making this film one big commercial. I enjoy it that he always pokes fun at satirical parts for the different sponsors that he's getting funded by to make this movie, and he makes some pretty funny commercials out of them in the film. Just, I wanted more personal reaction, especially from the people he interviewed, because there is one scene that deals with Sao Paulo, Brazil, and if you haven't been there and you think you know the city enough already, you're going to learn something in that film that you thought you would have never known about the city itself. But still, nonetheless, I enjoyed the greatest movie ever sold. It may not be Morgan Spurlock's best documentary because there are some notable flaws in it, but still, since I'm already a fan of the guy, I really enjoy this movie. I'm going to give it 3.5 out of 5 stars, and this movie's slowly releasing in its theatrical release up for the next few months in summer, so check it out if you're a Morgan Spurlock fan or just fascinated by the world of product placement.